That's good. You might not feel as good as when we talk about this next guy because arguably there's a case to be made for Kirk Cousins. There isn't a case to be made for the next QB on our list other than the small sample size that we've seen of him, and that is Trey Lance, quarterback for the San Francisco 49ers. In 2021, he finished outside the top 30. Obviously, we know that's because he didn't play a lot. He only started, I think, 1 or 2 games. I have him currently as the QB 15. Jacob has him cracking the top 10 at number 9. Consensus, that is the 13th QB off the board. And I was surprising to find out that his ADP is currently quarterback 13. He's the 13th quarterback off the board. You can find him in the 9th round. Jacob, Niners are your specialty. I'll leave it to you, my friend. What do you feel about Trey Lance?
Is this our biggest disparity? Because you have him at 15, I have him at 9.
It certainly is.
Yeah, so I have him ranked number 9 on my list. And look, you see my blankie in the background. You see
my blankie,
my
little
cup
blankie
right here.
cup.
There's no secrets. I'm diehard San Francisco 49ers fan. So there's a pinch of bias in this conversation. But
no, not at all.
But here's the thing. I don't even have him as high as some other people do who are, professional analysts who get paid to do this. And they a lot of them feel a lot more optimistic than I do. I just think because Trey Lance, there is a world where he's a top 5 fantasy QB to me, but there's also a world where he's like a bottom, like near the 20 range because he could just have very little touchdowns, very little passing yardage. He could rush for like 800 yards and kind of just be solid. But I'm going to just meet somewhere in the middle there. That's why I have him ranked number 9. Even if, look, he didn't look good in those 2 games that he played last year. Just watching it as an NFL quarterback, he didn't look great. But if you dig a little deeper into those numbers, he had a lot of rushing attempts and designed rushing attempts. And so I just think he's going to get a lot of volume on the ground, and that's going to lead to fantasy points. It's as simple as that. And I know that's not, great analysis, but it's just the truth. And
well, it's not only just the truth, it's proven. Quarterbacks with high rushing upside generally are really good for fantasy. So, I mean, I understand where you're coming from. 9 is just a little too high for me for a guy who hasn't really shown anything other than his rushing upside. But then again, was Lamar Jackson able to show anything other than his rushing upside? No, finished inside the top 10. Was Jalen Hurts able to prove anything other than just his rushing upside? No, finished inside the top 12 or 13, I think. So
exactly.
I think you're good. Keep going.
So that's basically what I'm saying is like, look, realistically, he's probably like the smart move is to like, hey, maybe take him in later rounds as your backup quarterback, see if he emerges. But the thing is, other fantasy managers aren't going to allow that. He's going to be taken way early. So you either got to take your shot on him or not. And I think, look, I'm holding out hope that he's going to be solid. Like if he's a top 12 QB this year, I'm happy with that. I just want to see him play, make it through the season, us have a winning record. But on top of that, if he puts up a solid fantasy season, like shows like Jalen Hurts-ish optimism when Jalen Hurts first year, I'd be completely happy with that.
Yeah, the Niners are just such an interesting scenario for me. I mean, you're looking at a team with Jimmy Garoppolo at the helm that made the Super Bowl twice in 5 years. Like, that's incredible. And yet they move on from him because, he technically couldn't get them over that hump. He couldn't get them into that promised land. But it seems to me like you kind of just like, you just take a step back now because now we have to wait to see Trey Lance to develop. And It's not like Patrick Mahomes, right? Patrick Mahomes in his second year was able to boost that team to a Super Bowl and win it, sitting only a year behind Alex Smith in his first rookie year. I don't think Trey Lance is Patrick Mahomes. So that's one knock. And then you just have all these things up in the air. Mike McDaniel left, talked about it. Was he the true schemer of that offense, of that Kyle Shanahan offense? And then the whole Debo contract dispute right now. Is he going to have that rushing potential next year? Is he not going to have that rushing potential next year? If he doesn't, it hurts him as a wide receiver, but it also hurts Trey Lance. It hurts the offense as a whole. Can Kittle stay healthy? Is Brandon Ayuk going to hide for half the season and then come back for the last 4 games of the season and provide fantasy value? You just don't know. It's so sporadic, and it scares me a little bit, especially because we know that these Kyle Shanahan offenses aren't traditional. We could see a lot of heavy running attempts like they have proven in the past. But with those running attempts are going to be built in natural rushing attempts for the QB, which are good for fantasy. I mean, me having him in the top 15 isn't a slouch. That's a streamer candidate. That's someone who's going to provide you fantasy value. I think those guys in the top 15, even the top 20, those are all guys that are streamer candidates week in and week out, which is why we're talking about them today. Trey Lance, he's got potential. I just think he's got more question marks than any of the guys that we've talked about. We talked about the question marks with Zach Wilson. We talked about the question marks with Trevor Lawrence, the other 2 second-year QBs on this list. I think Trey Lance has by far some of the biggest question marks.
No, and I agree with you. And I'm just taking my shot with him, putting him at number 9. So